Hello, Matt here. Welcome back to SuperCard Models. I've got another video for you today on the Gallardo build, of course. What I'm going to be doing is constructing the two rear quarter panels. So yeah, these were pretty complex, lots of little parts to kind of design and build and get fitting just right. But getting them designed and built was a pretty big milestone because it was basically one of the last major big kind of complex components of the bodywork to do. Well, I've still got like the doors to show you in one of the next videos and the hatch for the rear engine cover. But yeah, these were pretty awesome to do. So let's get started and I'll show you how I did it. So the rear quarter panels, or the rear guards, are constructed a little bit differently from other parts of the Gallardo that I've made so far, in that I'll build them up piece by piece, one at a time, layer by layer, directly onto the model. I'll start as usual by prototyping, designing and iterating all the individual parts for the rear quarter panels, and I'll document every piece in Illustrator, making sure that each part has its own separate layout. Once all the parts are printed, traced, and cut out by hand from their respective materials, this is what I end up with. So this is a full set of parts for one of the rear quarter panels. I'll make a whole other set, of course, for the driver's side. So now I'll take you through the process of constructing the passenger side rear quarter panel. The first thing I'll do is build a structural component, which is made up of 3 individual parts. I hand cut these parts out of 5mm thick foam core board. I'm using PVA glue, and I need to make sure all of the parts are aligned just right before the glue starts to dry. So this structural assembly is then ready to be fitted to the model. There are 2 tabs on the bottom, which fit into slots of the lower sill structure at the base of the rear frame on the car. Then the top edge of the vertical component just needs to be glued where it meets the existing rear frame component. Next, I'll glue a small foam core structural component here. Now I'll glue together another main structural assembly for the rear quarter. This one is made up of several cardboard standoff or former parts, which will inform the size and shape of the rear wheel arch area. One of the standoff parts has a tab which needs to be folded slightly like this, and the angle of the tab creates a matching interface with the standoff next to it. Fold over clips are super handy, of course. I use these a lot, and these are good for securely holding parts while the glue dries. So now I can go ahead and fit this structural assembly to the model. It fits accurately and securely with tabs that I've built into the various locations on the Gallardo's rear frame. The next job is to build another structural subcomponent. This one is made from 2 pieces of foam core board, and then I cover one of the exposed foam core board edges with a rectangle of black card. If I don't cover the edge like that, the exposed foam core board will probably be visible when you look up under the wheel arch. Once it's fitted, the structural part adds a ton of overall strength to the quarter panel. This next piece I'm going to add requires some initial folding and shaping. So I overlay a printout from my Illustrator plans first, and that acts as a guide as to where exactly I need to add a bend. The rest are just pretty straightforward, simple folds. This part is then ready to fit. You can see that this piece has a pretty important role to play in setting the position and structure of the door jamb area, and also the frontmost portion of the quarter panel, where it will meet the rear edge of the door. Once I'm sure it's positioned correctly, I can go ahead and glue it in place. This will all be covered by outer body panel parts, so it doesn't have to look too perfect at this stage. The next piece I'm going to add creates the boundary of the wheel arch area. It's a single part that I've hand cut from 1000 GSM cardboard. The top of the wheel arch has a series of notches cut into it, and the standoff parts slot nicely into those. So I check everything aligns correctly first, and then I can go ahead and add some glue. I then continue to glue and reinforce the joins between as many of the quarter panel parts as I can that I've added so far, and this adds a ton of overall strength. So if this was a real car, it would be a little bit like welding up all the seams, right? Now I can start adding some of the details that you will see. In this case, a small air inlet grille, which will mount to the top of the quarter panel. I've hand cut the grille piece, and it needs to be mounted to a frame that I've cut from thicker cardboard, just to give it some strength. Now I'm going to introduce some curvature to the side panel piece, using my rolling technique. To make sure the part holds that curvature that I've just rolled into it, I'll glue a reinforcement piece down the side like this. Then I'll glue a couple of extra strips of card at the bottom edge to create a bit more thickness. Then the side panel assembly can be fitted to the car. So you can see that the shape of the oil cooler air intake opening is now defined, and I can go ahead and fit a hand-cut grill mesh piece to that. The grill piece is held in place with 4 little tabs. It's not a structural part, so it doesn't have to be held in place with anything more than just a few small tabs. Next I can pre-fold this part, which is cut from shiny black foil board, and this will be the final outer body panel piece of the rear quarters door jamb area. I'm just using the edge of a wooden picture frame and also the edge of my small metal ruler just to help make the folds nice and neat and straight. And that finishes off the door jamb area. Just makes it look super neat and tidy, like it's been painted. So I'm going to add another piece to the edge of that part that I just added, so that the edge of all the tabs feel a bit more solid and continuous. I'll use super glue this time instead of PVA, as super glue bonds better to the shiny metallic foil board. So as I mentioned, you can see that this part here just adds a larger and more seamless surface to attach more parts to. I'm adding another final outer body piece now, and this one finishes the area between the door jamb and the oil cooler air intake opening. So the top of the quarter panel area needs a few more structural parts to be fitted, and I can just use PVA glue to assemble these ones. And these parts not only create more overall strength to the quarter panel, but they also create surfaces that I need to attach outer body panels to in this part of the quarter panel. So the outer body skin panel will attach to this 1000 GSM cardboard part, which I'll roll to give it some curvature, like this. Then it's ready to be glued directly to the structural foam board parts I added a minute ago. It has to be positioned perfectly, and I'll hold it until the glue dries, just making sure it's making good contact along both of the glued edges. Now I can start adding more of the final, shiny black foilboard outer body panel parts. And this circular piece is the petrol filler cap cover. This side panel part needs to have a tab strip glued to it first. Once that's dry, I can do some folding and shaping in preparation for final fitment to the car. And what I'm doing now is I'm using a roll of masking tape as a roller and the edge of a piece of cardboard underneath to crease in a swage or ridge line into that part. The last detail to add is the LP 560-4 badge, which I've printed on photo paper and carefully cut out with my craft knife. Now this assembly is ready to be fitted to the car. For areas like around the wheel arch area, I work my way around, starting from the bottom, carefully gluing just 1 or 2 tabs at a time. And that gives me more control, and I found it creates a better end result, rather than just trying to glue them all down at once.
Do I wanna try? Can I let it go? We're running from the past, wanting to be sure. Chaos in my mind, constant deja vu. But every time, it comes back to you.
Now I can add the final outer body part to this top surface area. As usual, a small amount of glue just around the edge gives the best result, and I always flatten the bed of glue with a Q-tip. Doing that ensures the outer skin sits as smooth as possible. There's a small lip on the trailing edge of this top panel, which I can press in using my fingernail. I glued a small piece of cardboard underneath that spot, and the top body panel piece just bends around it as I press down with my nail. This is the last major outer body panel part for the rear quarter. I lightly tape the tab piece to my table. If I don't do that, it'll just curl up when I add glue to it. And I also want to smooth the glue out a bit so that the outer body panel that I'm about to glue on top of it will have a smoother appearance. The separate tabbed part is needed for 2 reasons. Firstly, it gives me a way to attach the panel itself to the car, and secondly, I can glue the wheel arch outer body panels to the tabs. You'll see what I mean in a second. Some pre-folding like this helps when I come to do the final fitment. There's the part ready to attach to the car. To fit this panel, I start by gluing the tabs along the top edge. And it's important to make sure they're all making good contact with the underlying structural piece. And I'll just spend a while holding it in place while the glue dries. Once that top edge is secured, I can just go around and glue up the other little contact points and details. Around the wheel arch, I'll glue 1 tab at a time, making sure that each tab is glued and positioned well and dries nice and flat. You can see now how those tabs have given me a good contoured surface to glue the flared wheel arch pieces onto. The very last part is the outer wheel arch body panel, and that covers up the untidy tabs and really finishes off the look of the quarter panel. And there we have it, the final quarter panel. I repeated the exact same process for the one on the other side, of course, and yeah, it looks pretty good. Yeah, so there we go, that's the 2 rear quarter panels done. Either in the next video or the one after that, I'll be doing the doors for the Gallardo, and then after that, probably the engine hatch or the engine cover. And then the bodywork will basically be all complete. So yeah, make sure you stick around for those. If you're building something like this yourself, I'd love to see some photos or some videos or something. Just email me at matt@supercardmodels.com or just send me a link on Instagram if you like. I'd love to see what you're working on. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you next time.